يتجرع اليوم سكان الصحراء آلام ومآسي تبعات سموم اليرابيع التي شوهت معالم الإنسان. تحولت أراضيها الخصبة إلى مساحات جرداء صماء. جفت الآبار بعدما كانت ينابيع جارية. بعد مرور 64 سنة على مأساة التفجيرات النووية، نستذكر الأحداث التي ترويها صفحات الأيام وألسنة التاريخ، وتستحضرها وزارة المجاهدين وذوي الحقوق من خلال تنظيم تظاهرة تاريخية بولاية أضرار، وذلك يوم 13 فبراير 2024. رجان، ستبقين ذكرى أبدية لجرح محفور في الزمان والمكان وذاكرة الإنسان. المجد والخلود لشهدائنا الأبرار. تحيا الجزائر.
It's 11 p.m. and these are today's news. The Prime Minister Nadil Arbawi supervised the graduation ceremony of the 52nd class of the National School of Administration, a ceremony taking place with Algeria's strategic decision of accelerating its social and economic transformation. A press conference of the National Union of Algerian Bar Associations of Lawyers was organized in Algiers. The progress made within the International Court of Justice regarding the Palestinian cause was tackled. The Zionist entity continues its genocide against Palestinians in Gaza and in the occupied West Bank, despite all the calls of the international community for an immediate stop of the aggression. The death toll exceeds 28,000 martyrs, and the presence of Moroccan soldiers within the Zionist army is raising new questions about this normalization. Algerian television reveals its programs during the month of Ramadan. It unveils rich and varied TV shows and programs that would satisfy the audience. Details later on. Welcome back. We start off our edition with this activity of the Prime Minister Nadil Arbawi as he supervised today the graduation ceremony of the 52nd class of the National School for Administration, bearing the name of the late war veteran Youssef Al-Khatib. The graduation ceremony was attended by advisors to the President of the Republic, the Minister for the Interior, Local Collectivities and Territory Planning, Ibrahim Red, members of the government, senior executives in the state, and representatives of national institutions, as well as the school's teachers and students. The valedictorians were honored along with the family of the late war veteran Youssef Al-Khatib. And now let's have a listen to the statement made by the Prime Minister.
The granting of diplomas to the 52nd promotion of the National School of Administration comes at a time when our country, under the leadership of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, embodies the strategic choice to accelerate the economic and social transformation of Algeria by focusing in particular on the skills of its citizens and its human capital. The President of the Republic maintains his strong desire to fully embody the ambitious project which aspires to a global reform of the various state institutions. The head of state has constantly highlighted the importance of taking optimal care of human resources, particularly the younger generation. He has also taken decisions to improve the professional and social conditions of workers, in particular by promoting salaries.
Regarding the crimes committed by the Zionist entity in Gaza Strip, a press conference of the National Union of Algerian Lawyers Associations was organized in Algiers. The progress of the referral to the International Criminal Court by International Legal Alliance was discussed.
The complaint filed by the International Legal Alliance against the Zionist entity for the genocidal crimes in Palestine before the International Criminal Court in The Hague on February 2nd is well underway.
There
remains the applicable law, which has been very clarified by the order of the International Court of Justice.
there are some elements who are not standing against the genocide and are affecting the decision of the International Court. So what's missing is an International Court of Justice decision that applies to everybody. And to achieve that, we brought a stack of 1,500 pages of evidence that was handed over to the prosecutor's office.
More than 100,000 lawyers from all over the world, including Arab and African lawyers, have joined the International Legal Alliance to file this complaint to the International Court of Justice on February 2nd, among them 65,100 Algerians. Our approach is strengthened by the judgment of the International Court of Justice following the complaint filed by South Africa, which recognized the genocidal nature of the crisis perpetrated by the Zionist entity. The International Legal Alliance in defense of the Palestinians does not intend to stop there.
The next complaint against the Zionist entity to the International Court of Justice will be about Jerusalem. We already have finished all the procedures of preparing the file containing the applicable law and the evidences.
The International Legal Alliance is planning to launch soon a website in Algiers in several languages to collect testimonies and evidence of horror committed by the Zionist entity against the Palestinian people.
As shown to the whole world, the Zionist entity continues its genocide against Palestinians in Gaza and in the occupied West Bank, despite all the calls for the international community for an immediate ceasefire, the aggression and the warnings of the non-governmental organizations. The region is still targeted and the strikes are still intense. Yasin Hamdi.
Another night of terror in the Gaza Strip. At dawn, the Palestinians were awakened by bombings in the region of Rafah, a refuge for 1.3 million of people. These airstrikes caused tens of martyrs and wounded. Most of them were women, children, and elderly people. Overwhelmed, the rescue teams were helped by the local population to save the wounded. This old man was pulled out of the rubble at the last minute. His legs were injured and he was treated by the medical staff. His life is no more in danger. The genocidal policy of the Zionist entity doesn't stop here. After Gaza and Khan Yunis, the Zionist army carries a land operation in the town of Rafah, next to Egypt, in the extreme south of the Gaza Strip, an operation that may increase the number of the Palestinian martyrs in this region. In his speech to the General Assembly, during which he presented his priorities for the year 2024, the General Secretary of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, said that the situation in Gaza is a bleeding wound in the collective consciousness. He also warned against a new aggression in Rafah.
Latest updates as at least 117 Palestinians were killed in a bombardment by the Zionist occupation army in the center and south of Gaza Strip. The barbaric aggression against the Palestinian enclave is targeting more than ever women and children, which brings the total death toll to more than 28,000 martyrs.
The death toll of the Zionist genocidal aggression on Gaza Strip has reached more than 28,000 martyrs and more than 67,600 wounded. This is not all. Thousands of people remain under the rubble and in the street, where the occupation forces prevent the ambulances from reaching them. Hamas warned today that an offensive by the Zionist entity on Rafah alone could cause tens of thousands of deaths and injuries in this southern Gaza town, the last refuge for hundreds of thousands of Palestinian civilians that the Zionist Prime Minister has announced he wants to evacuate. This warning comes after the Zionist Prime Minister ordered the preparation of an offensive on Rafah. The town of Rafah is the scene of deadly attacks. It is the main entry point for humanitarian aid and now houses more than half of the population of Gaza. The Zionist entity is threatening a devastating ground operation in the region. The Human Rights Watch has warned of the growing risk of forced displacement, which would constitute a war crime and have catastrophic consequences for the population.
As a result of the French government's suspension of its contribution to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency during the dramatic and inhuman situation in Gaza, a growing movement of elected officials have raised and joined the voice of the streets, demanding an immediate ceasefire. More details with Rania Al-Bahri.
Every Saturday, the streets of Paris resonate with voice of solidarity with Gaza, where the murderous war persists before the eyes of the world. The Palestinians are victims of a genocide supported by Western governments, but even within the French Senate, voices are being raised to say stop.
I have supported the Palestinian cause for all the time. I support all the causes of the people who fight for their dignity, freedom and their self-determination. Today, in the face of the economic, social and health crisis that the Gazans are experiencing, I believe that France's foreign policy is not up to the challenges.
Eklim Louli takes part in a daring mission to join Rafah with French elected officials to denounce the blockade and the war crisis perpetrated against Gaza.
Symbolically going to the border to tell them we hear you, we listen to you and we will not leave you. Our goal is also to tell people tomorrow you won't be able to say that you did not know that more than 7,000 children were killed and 1.6 million people were forced to move and more than 10,000 orphans. We cannot act like nothing happens and we are here to testify.
Back in Paris, the action doesn't slow down. Accompanied by Raymond Poncemonge, his colleague from the Foreign Affairs Committee in the Senate, to meet the representatives of the Franco-Palestinian Doctors Association.
It is real shame for the international community to let the Zionist entity behave with such abuse and imprison doctors without hearing from them. They are doing whatever they want in front of the international legality. We are not here to explain the health situation in Palestine that everyone knows because everyone watches TV, but also to make all political and humanitarian actors in France or Europe aware of this situation and so that they can actually take political action.
And this is indeed the next step for Eklim Louli and these allies to put pressure and search for support for the association supporting the civil situation in Gaza, failing to change the position of the French government.
The normalization of the relations between Morocco and the Zionist entity led to a growing and shocking cooperation, especially in the military field. Thousands of Moroccan soldiers are taking part in this genocide. Yassine Hamdi.
Je suis à Rosh Hanikra, c'est une ville d'Israël, regardez, et nous sommes à la pointe du Liban Sud, près de nous, le militaire Tsahal qui surveille Israël. On est fiers d'eux, Am Israël Chai, victoire pour Israël, la paix Inch'Allah qui règne en Israël et dans tout le Moyen-Orient. Et on souhaite surtout beaucoup de force et de courage. الدراري هادو لو تسعة اللي فيهم المغاربه ديالنا وسي فيهم بزاف المغاربه ديالنا دونك الله يحميهم من العدو ان شاء الله والله يعطيهم النجاح.
Even if this video is not recent, it confirms once again the complicity that has always existed between two colonial regimes, the Makhzen and the Zionist entity. Day after day, the Makhzen is becoming more committed to the normalization with the Zionist entity. The cooperation is not just about the military cooperation, it's even worse. With this new partnership, the Makhzen plans to send more than 4,000 Moroccan soldiers to join the Zionist army and take part to the genocide against the Palestinian people.
فيما يتعلق بحضور الجنود المغاربه بين صفوف الجيش الاسرائيلي فقد تم التاكيد على هذه المساله على مستويات اللي هي مختلفه سواء.
The presence of Moroccan soldiers among the Zionist army has been confirmed, especially on social media by the official spokesperson of the Palestinian resistance, who affirmed that the Moroccan soldiers were in the first line fighting the Palestinians, and those soldiers shared proudly on social media their experience and their collaboration with the Zionist army, proud of being directly involved in crimes against humanity. The relation between Morocco and the Zionist entity before the normalization was focused on the intelligence and security cooperation, After the shameful normalization, the Makhzen started buying weapons, and the Moroccan soldiers were trained by the Zionist army.
تجنيد المرتزقة واستقطابهم للقتال.
The recruiting of mercenaries to reinforce the ranks of the Zionist army is an old strategy that dates back to the 40s, when the Zionist movements and the paramilitary groups led by organizations such as the Mossad were looking to recruit mercenaries. Several European countries and the USA and Canada were the main sources of recruiting. Those mercenaries were deployed in Palestine to kill the Palestinian people. They are all involved in displacement operations and genocide in order to erase the Palestinian cause. The military cooperation between the Zionist entity and Morocco made the Makhzen send from its own will thousands of Moroccan soldiers to support the Zionist occupation in its genocide in Gaza, a betrayal in the name of the regional stability. The Moroccans are committing crimes against humanity by the side of the Zionist entity. It's a fact. There are thousands to fight the Palestinian people as part of the program called the Unique Soldier. It's a program supervised by the Zionist Ministry of Defense with the cooperation of several Jewish organizations located in Europe. One of them is located in Belgium and is called Mahal. It recruits new soldiers that will join the Zionist army and has training camps everywhere in Europe.
وجود جنود أو
Media around the world and the Palestinian resistance have proved the presence of soldiers from different nationalities. It shows that the Zionist army has a lot of mercenaries. They also have a special unit made of mercenaries recruited by security and military companies. Morocco is now under the yoke of the Zionist interests orchestrated by those who stand in shadow. The influence of the Zionist lobby on the Moroccan foreign policy is so important that it made the Moroccan government ignore the call of Gaza.
New corruption and espionage scandal in the Netherlands. The Dutch justice system has accused a citizen with a Moroccan background of disclosing information on Dutch security services. This case has affected the European public opinion, considering that the safety of the old continent is threatened. The Dutch and European press spread the letter and highlighted the proceedings taken by the Court of Rotterdam, which dismantled the Moroccan espionage network active in the Netherlands and which is led by a Moroccan employee within one of the security services and who made the information that got collected available to the Makhzen. Moving on to the solidarity group with the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, which held its first meeting in Geneva, a meeting attended by ambassadors and representatives of the group's 15-member countries, and which was dedicated to assessing the past year's activities and studying the main events on the agenda for the current year, such as the 55th session of the UN Human Rights Council. Education now, as the Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research presided over today with the Minister of Knowledge Economy, Startups and Micro-Enterprises, the ceremony of launching a training course for students with 700 micro-enterprise projects, and it took place in the Faculty of Information and Communication Sciences. Algerian television revealed its selection of programs during the month of Ramadan. It unveils rich and varied TV shows and programs made up of series, sitcoms, talk shows and other entertainments for children and even gastronomy to satisfy the audience. More details with Rania Al-Bahri.
Series and TV shows in the evening. A rich and varied program is reserved for viewers of all EPTV channels during the holy month of Ramadan. Public television remains a media with the power to influence minds and hearts. Don't let the technologies fool you, because TV advertising, thanks in particular to the technologies it uses, targets awareness and allows to reach a wide audience. The promotional evening constituted an exceptional opportunity to highlight the public television program planned for this sacred month. Today we have noticed that a rich and diversified program is put together as a leader in terms of information. In addition, it will improve further thanks to the project drawn up by television for more professionalism on the media scene, which demonstrates that public television is particularly concerned with new restructuring in this holy month. The program of this Ramadan promises to be rich thanks to the presence of many known actors. I took part in Hayat drama series produced by public television. I participated in a historical series of 10 episodes, which highlights the struggle and the Algerian Revolution. It is called The Swiqa, directed by Mehdi Abdelhaq and written by Ammar Mohsen. During this promotional evening, Algerian television unveiled its varied program for the month of Ramadan under the slogan, Ramadan brings us together.
And we wrap up our edition with sports news. This latest achievement of Qatar winning the IFC. All right, that was up for today's news. Thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow.